Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining me today for another day of porch drinking out here. I love drinking out on this porch. For today's whiskey review, we're going to get into some Old Route 8. This is coming from Augusta Distillery in Kentucky. And man, I am going to rave and rave and rave about this pour. And then I might not recommend it to you. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Guess you'll have to stick around, figure out why I feel that way, and see where we go from here. Ooh, I am all types of conflicted, though, before we even start this thing. Thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right, let's pour the sample here. We'll taste through this together. Perfect. So this is coming from Augusta Distillery, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This was aged for 8 years. This particular single barrel, by the way, is barrel number 16, and it is 127.8 proof. Now, on the back here, as they go through kind of the story about Old Route 8 and how it leads to the distillery and why it's named this way, really, really important detail at the bottom of this. Now, I just saw this detail as I was getting into this video. I had these suspicions anyway, but man, it really is going to anchor my suspicions even further. Distilled and aged in Bardstown, Kentucky. So this is a sourced 8-year product. And for reference, this cost me $120. And that's going to be a big part of it once we get into the summary of all this. But let's get into the whiskey, because I'll tell you what, this whiskey is good. So let's get into the nose, and then we'll get into the palate. Cheers, everybody. Thank you for joining me so far. Oh, man. It's real strong on the nose. One of the first pours of the day, so man, it's really lighting me up at 127.6 proof. So on the nose, I get a combination of a chocolate, but more of a specifically like a mocha style flavor, a lot of black pepper, burnt pie crust. Then fruit-wise, it's more of a blackberry preserve. Then you got the powdered sugar, and then ultimately some roasted pecans kind of sitting there as well. So it kind of describes an interesting pie right there. But the preserves and everything, you know, a little different than the pecans. All right. I think that's all for the nose. It's quite a bit, though. Let's get into the taste. Up front, just waves of cinnamon, brown sugar. It's very thick and viscous, gives you some molasses up front even. And then there's a hint of apple chips as well initially. Let's go into mid-palate. It does start to brighten up a bit. The molasses kind of turns more into this banana candy, like a banana runts. There is a lot of dark chocolate. That apple still hangs pretty good. That pepper's coming back, so it's still got that spiciness and that pepperness. And then just a really, really nice vanilla cream. Oh, man. Oh, it's really, really good. Then it actually accelerates into the finish. So on the finish is finally where that Bardstown nuttiness emerges. So you do start getting the peanut shells, the peanut butter sensation. The chocolate comes through even further when it comes to the finish. Still getting that apple kind of through and through. So that balance on this 8-year between these light notes and the dark notes with that apple gives it just a real, real nice balance. On the finish again, there is that pepperiness, that barrel char does come through. That vanilla cream turns more into a darker vanilla extract. And on the tail end of the finish, I bet you Kelsey would call this Smarties. I'm going to equate it, I said the banana candy, like the banana runts earlier, but you got that medley of the runts when it's got like the apples and all the other fruits in there, the cherries. I'm getting all of those on the finish, still getting them right now. Oh, this thing is just rich, oily, viscous, packed with flavor through and through. Oh, man, I really do like this pour. Tell you what, even sitting here right now, I mean, I was impressed with it before, and this tasting's been fantastic, too. So why the conflict on this one? Well, let's pull up the scores, and we'll talk about that a bit more. So here on the channel, we do have a 3-tier scoring system. And here we go through, the flavor score, experience score, value score, and then that ultimately adds up to the total score. So there's a whole bunch of other metrics behind this, but ultimately flavor is how enjoyable it was every step of the process. You see the smile on my face. Experience is more about that complexity, the mouthfeel, the length of the finish. You heard me raving about all those. And then value. What is it about the price that was paid versus the experience that was given? How would I rate that value? So ultimately, at the end, you can see it rated pretty darn consistently. Gave it an 82 out of 100, which is a great pour. I actually just recently filmed our top 10, my top 10 pours thus far of 2023. And you had to score an 83 or above to be on that list. So it is like right there on being a top 10 pour. But I gave it the value score. It only got an 8 out of 10. I got 80% of the possible points when it came to value. It cost $120. And what I think this thing is an 8-year ECBP. I could be wrong. That is just my speculation. But I really think this thing is an 8-year ECBP. And I've been able to pick those up pretty consistently for $80 or $90. So it's like, I'm sitting here. I love this thing. I adore this thing. But it also cost $120. And I'm pretty sure I can get something very equivalent to it. And I've done some comparisons to some open ECBPs I have that are 8 and 9 years old. And tell you what, it's batting right down that lane. And it says distilled and aged in Bardstown right on the back. But man, that's my thing. That's my thing with this. So I gave it a 7 out of 10 when it came to the recommend, because if you can get some ECBPs, why would you get this? If we're saying ECBP single barrels are out there, you can get those 8 years, 9 years, 10 years even. What makes this worth $120? So that's where it's at. It's a pricing problem, not a whiskey problem, not even a taste problem. And I mean, I hate to say it out loud, but maybe the ECBPs are underpriced, but you didn't hear me say that. They're perfectly priced. This is a good whiskey, though. So take that as you would. So if you see this, now I think the distribution on this one is on the lower side. This is the first edition. It's got a cool little label on that one. But it does say first edition on the button there. So yeah, right there. First edition. So I don't know how many more of these they're going to be putting out there. The other thing that I've had from Augusta is the 13-year Buckner. And once again, great whiskey. But 13 years for $200 is something that I think is a Barton product, when you can get things like Lucky 7, you can get things like Sam Houston on the shelf that are just as old and cheaper. So it's the value side on the Augusta bottles that gets me so far, just because I know the alternatives that are out there. And this one sits the same. So I did have on there, would I buy another? I probably won't buy another of these 8-year old Route 8s, because it tastes like ECBP. I'm pretty sure it's an ECBP single barrel. It's the equivalence of that. And I haven't had any issues getting my hands on some really good ECBP single barrels thus far. So as much as I can recommend this one somewhat, I mean, I gave it an 82 out of 100. This is great whiskey. I don't think I'll get another one, though, just because of the price. So if you find it on sale, man, that'd be a different story altogether. So I'll do one more taste here with you, and then we'll sign off for this video. It is so good. I love that apple. It's the apple throughout, and then it gives all the other flavors. It's such a good single barrel. So conflicted on this one. So take that as you would. If you can't find those ECBPs, dude, pay up for this one then. Maybe that's my recommendation. Like it's fine, kind of, I guess, where it's at. It's just I know I can get the alternative. So let me know in the comments if you've had this before, if you've had a single barrel. What did you think of yours? I'd love to hear your thoughts of this one. And what do you think about this whole sourcing game, especially when we know we can find alternatives that maybe taste almost the exact same, that come from the same family of barrels. They just have a different label on them. And because they had to get the barrels, they have to charge us more for it. I mean, it makes sense. They're running a business. It makes sense economically. Man, I am so terribly conflicted on this one, as you can tell. I want to recommend it to everybody. I think that's the thing that I'm like struggling with. I just know it's probably ECBP. So good though. So take that as you would. You can see how conflicted I am and all this. Like I just got so many emotions running through me. So thank you for joining me today for today's whiskey review, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, whiskey friends.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you